everybody, welcome back to episode 13 of the Farlander Patron server. Remember that time when I said I'll be doing these every 3 days? That was a funny joke, wasn't it? It's been like, what, a month or something since I last did this? Probably something like that. I finished the canal that I said I was going to do. And one thing I want to try and do is go try and boat from my from Spawn Town over to here. See if I can make that journey without getting lost. Things to talk about. Gardex just released his, well, not just released, a couple days ago. Well, that pigment's in there now. He released his hour-long episode where he talked about TV shows. And he was talking about The Office. And I have lots of thoughts about The Office. I'm going to preface it by saying, like, The Office is a pretty good show. We all know The Office is a pretty good show. I'm comparing it to, my favorite shows of all time. So, like, I'm not saying it's a bad show. But, like, I do think it's a good show. It's still an overrated show because people seem to think it's, like, the greatest sitcom of all time, in my opinion. And The Office seems to focus mostly on, like, cringe comedy. Right? That's people say, like, oh, the best episodes of The Office, Scott's Tots and Dinner Party. Not trying to attack Gardex or saying Dinner Party is, like, the best episode, but those are episodes where the comedy is from the cringe of the awkward social situations, and that's not something, at least I personally, can empathize with. Like, I see someone in a cringy situation and I feel cringy myself, right? I can pull out which one of these maps. I'm not even showing up on this map. That's weird. Alright, I can't use that to guide me. I'll just have to try it. So, like, the 3 NBC sitcoms that I've watched are The Office, 30 Rock, and Parks and Rec. I've also watched The Good Place. I've mentioned before how, well, at least to some people, how I don't consider the Good Place to be a sitcom, even though some people do. It's more of a serial. But yeah, I haven't watched Friends or Community or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I think are the other 3 big NBC sitcoms. But out of the 3 that I have watched, I'd rank The Office lowest on the list. Which isn't saying it's a bad show. Like, I've watched The Office multiple times. I've enjoyed it. But, like, it definitely has some good episodes in there that don't rely on cringe comedy, that actually have, good in its own right. But it's just, like, the percentage of the show that's solid is much lower than the other 2. Like, Parks and Rec, I'd say besides season 1 is weak, and everyone knows season 1 of Parks and Rec is weak. That dolphin went flying. Besides season 1, I'd say, holy crap, this dolphin, man. Yo, chill, my guy. Besides season 1, like, seasons 2 through, 7 of Parks and Rec are all very solid. They don't really rely on cringe comedy at all. It's almost like a feel-good show. It's like it's one of those shows where, like, almost every character is very empathizable, I'd say. Like, there are a couple, like, John Ralphio and Mona Lisa Saperstein are, like, kind of dicks, but they're using such small quantities that they're just funny. They're not really annoying. When you compare to, like, The Office, Nellie is just, like, a terrible character. Like, I think Nellie should have been written off of, like, never should have been written in the show in the first place. But, like, that's, like, an awful character that just, you don't empathize with her at all. At least I don't. I'd honestly say that about, what's the Guardian Farm? Yeah, I'm just traveling in this direction, hoping that I get somewhere near the thing. I was hoping that I could guide myself with this map. And show up as a dot, but apparently that's not going to happen. So this will be interesting. The later seasons, Andy Bernard, and even, like, Michael Scott, for the most part, like, there are some parts where you can relate with him. Like, they try in, like, the later seasons, like 3, 4, 5, to make Michael Scott a lot more relatable and a lot less of just a dick boss that you hate. But like, it at most you feel bad for him, but you don't really want to see. At least I never really wanted to see him succeed. It's just like he's sort of a jerk. When you look at, where am I? Oh, this is Manfredity, I think. I think they've expanded their base. I don't think there's that many stories before. When you look at Parks and Rec, and especially 30 Rock. 30 Rock is one of the shows where, like, almost all of the characters are multidimensional and very sympathizable. Like, even, like, Parks and Rec, I think Donna is one of the main characters that, like, I'm not saying that she's a bad character, but she seems very one-dimensional. In the later seasons, they gave her some more stuff, but like her main personality trait for the first, oh, that poor dolphin. Oh, both of those poor dolphins. For the first like few seasons, Donna's main personality trait is the fact that she owns a Mercedes. Like that's not a personality trait, right? And I get like that's the point that they were trying to convey. But it just, I don't know, it's especially being such a main character of the show. You know, one of the characters that are like shown in the opening credits and stuff like that. That's a big character Donna was, and she was still sort of weak of a character. Compared to 30 Rock, like in the entire 7 seasons of 30 Rock, I think there's only one character which I think was like actively not only like a bad character like in universe but also in show would be Hazel. What was her name? I'm lost. I didn't think that jungle would end. Well, let's just keep going in this direction. Yeah, Hazel, but I don't think she only did it for like half a season or something. Maybe like a quarter of a season. Oh, this is probably my biome. Yeah, but besides that, like, she's not a main character by any means. She's, like, partially an antagonist. But even, like, the antagonists in 30 Rock are very relatable. Oh, god damn it. Not, like, Devin Banks and whatever Hank Cooper's kid is called. Kylie or something. They're both characters that both, I think, fit well within the show and also can make you feel their side of the story, even though they are the antagonists. Parks and Rec, the antagonists, I'm trying to think, like Jeremy Jam, I guess you do feel for him, especially in the later parts of the show. Oh, here we are. I put the torches to lay it off. Yeah, I don't really... I guess, whatever the name of the character that Paul Rudd played, he was a nice guy. You liked him. But then, I don't know, The Office almost... I can't even think of an antagonist in the Office. I guess Nellie, almost. I'm not sure if Nellie was supposed to be an antagonist or not, but she always seemed like one to me. But even, like, in The Office, like, the characters... I guess, like, in The Office, all the characters are, like, at first portrayed to be, like, good guys. Like, even, like, you know, Jim and Pam are supposed to be, like, the main characters, almost. If it's not Michael, it's probably Jim or Pam or Dwight. Or, like, Phyllis or something. Like, all the characters that at first were portrayed to be, like, these good people ended up, like, if you actually look at what they do throughout the series, they're all sort of jerks. Like the only like truly decent characters, as in like decent human beings that, you know, I would want to be friends with, would be like, I don't know, David Wallace, Daryl, probably. Like Jim is pretty self-centered and sort of a dick to Dwight. Pam, you know, takes advantage of it doesn't take advantage of, but I didn't do this. How how am I saying this? I haven't watched The Office in a long time, so I am blanking a bit on some of the stuff. But like, Jim bends over backwards for Pam to get her through art school, and Pam doesn't want Jim to do his job, right? He starts worrying about him, and like yeah. So she's not like a terrible human being because of that, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that she's a perfect person. Like in general, they are all good people, but they're all not the you know, when you compare them to Parks and Rec, like Ron and Leslie, right? Those are characters that, if anything, are initially portrayed as negative, with Leslie being this like overactive, authoritarian person, and Ron being sort of just this complete shut-in. And throughout the show, it shows how, even though initially they're portrayed as these negative people, it shows the other side of them. And I guess The Office does the opposite. But yeah. So I guess just in general, I don't find The Office's... I don't know. Another thing is, I guess the... I'm just... Okay. So, I didn't actually talk about this canal. Let's take a break from the show for a second to talk about that. Oh yeah, so I did pretty much exactly what I said I was going to do. Gardex, by the way, you were here in your episode, and you, I think, were right here with your pig, and you wanted to go to your place. You could have just gotten your boat and used this new canal I built for you, but no. It's not your fault. You had no way of knowing that this was going to be this way. Yeah, it goes through here. This very natural pathway that Gardex pointed out over this ravine that Gardex wanted me to flood, but I said I wasn't going to flood because it would only be half flooded because the ravine continues that way. And then through here, this is a natural archway and natural ravine, but I just flooded it. And then you turn right through this lake. I cut through here. And I cut through here, and then I cut a giant canal through this hill, which Gardex took a lot of offense to, but sucks to be you, Gardex. I also made sure to make it wider than the canal I built in Spawn Town, because that one you always hit the wall, boat against the wall. But yeah, like The Office has, like Office season 1 is pretty weak, and the later seasons are pretty weak, except for I'd say like the last couple episodes of the last season are some of the strongest one. The finale and the one before the finale, assistant regional manager, and I'd say assistant regional manager. Spoilers. I know Gardex said that you haven't watched it, so spoilers, Gardex. I'd say like that's one of the strongest episodes, if not the strongest episode, because it goes away from the whole cringe comedy thing, and it's just like a feel-good story, essentially. It's just like very similar to what Parks and Rec and 30 Rock does, where all the characters are relatable, and all the characters have good relationships with each other. Right? It's playing off of Jim and Dwight's friendship rather than their rivalry, where like, as much as like, Jim's pranks on Dwight were funny, it's also like sort of mean, because like Dwight's not a terrible person. It's just Jim doesn't like him for the beginning of the show and starts pulling pranks on this guy. But yeah, the a lot of The Office's episodes are weak. I'd say like more than half of its episodes are weak, pretty much. When you consider the first half, pretty much the first season, and the second half of the show, essentially. Parks and Rec, the first season is weak, but after that, it gets a very strong foothold, and it doesn't really let go of it. It ends very strong. But 30 Rock, I'd say like it's strong throughout. The first episode of 30 Rock is just as strong as any other episode in it. And that's something that definitely cannot be said for 30 Rock or for Parks and Rec or The Office. The only weak episodes of 30 Rock, I'd say, are the ones where Hazel are involved. And the storyline that she has with Kenneth. and I don't like that at all. But like I think that's like 5 episodes or something like that out of a show with like what 120 episodes or something. So overall, very solid show. Future plans. So I want a dock over here, similar to like the dock I have in Spawn Town. So it's probably going to be right here, leave a couple blocks gap to get to Jem's place, and then build a dock right here with a pier going out into the water. And then we'd walk out through here, and then there'd be maybe paths and more buildings over here, and then maybe a bridge. And then down on this side, I'll also want a bridge over here. Probably just like keep it at this height and build across that way over the river. But yeah, this is my thoughts on NBC sitcoms. Office is a pretty good show, but also by far not the best NBC sitcom. I have watched The Office multiple times. I like The Office, but when I have a choice between rewatching The Office or Parks and Rec or 30 Rock, it's almost always 30 Rock. Sometimes it's Parks and Rec, but it's like I've watched The Office I think 3 times, Parks and Rec probably 4 or 5, and 30 Rock also probably like 5. But I've also found 30 Rock a lot later than the other 2 shows. I'd say 30 Rock is the funniest show out of them. Like, I'm trying to think of like jokes in The Office and Parks and Rec are very few and far between. Like 30 Rock is a lot. It very much so borders the. It's like I'm not sure what genre you'd call like the airplane movie. But 30 Rock like is that plus Parks and Rec pretty much, where you have this very healthy, very deep relationship between all of the characters, but also this like sort of farcical comedy, self-referential meta stuff. But it's also like a show that I need to cut down these trees, right? Probably. I can replant if I need them. It's also one thing that either it's a blessing or a curse or both. I don't know. It's a show that you can't put on in the background, at least for me. Like, that is a show that requires my full attention to watch because there's so much self-referential humor. Like, every line is a joke of some sort, essentially, right? So it's one of those sort of shows. You can't just, like, tune it out and play a game while you have it on in the background. It's a show that, like, I'll even often pause to, read a couple Wikipedia articles to try to understand a joke if I don't understand a joke. And that's something that I enjoy doing, but I understand that's not something that everyone wants in a show. Sometimes they want a show that they can turn their brain off to. And if that's your thing, I'd say to go watch Parks and Rec. But, like, I'd say that between those 2 shows, the only thing that The Office is better than both of those 2 shows is cringe comedy, and I just personally don't consider cringe comedy to be valuable. But yeah, that's my thoughts on TV shows, and I rambled for 20 minutes. I was gonna actually make this. I was thinking like I stopped recording for a month, because I didn't have anything to talk about in my episodes. So I was thinking I'll just do more cut up episodes where I work over a period of like a week and record my progress. But that ended up not happening because I had to talk about The Office for 20 minutes. So I'm just going to stretch this episode out another few minutes and upload it by itself, pretty much. Okay. I'm probably not going to build on camera, though, because building is hard enough without being on camera for me. Okay, so you said a couple blocks gap. 3 blocks? Probably 4 blocks. And start over here. Just put some borders down. Something like that. That's a small building. It doesn't have to be a big building. It's just a small fishing dock. It should be like where the fisherman lives. Something like that. Oh yeah. I think I'm probably gonna call it here for today's episode. Hopefully by the time this next episode's up or whatever. Actually, next episode will probably be me building this, but just like the before and after, and maybe some in between, not actually recording me building. We'll see. Hopefully I'll have a fishing dock here at some point soon. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.